When you think of the greatest investor in Wall Street history, who do you think of? Warren Buffett, Jordan Belfort, Peter Lynch? Well, this person is so good at investing that if he kept the same consistency and longevity of Warren Buffett, we would have more money than every single billionaire combined. In fact, he would have more money than the entire world economy combined, and then some. His name is James Simmons, an Albert Einstein-level genius with an understanding of mathematics that has never been seen before. For most of his life, he concentrated most of his efforts on theoretical math and being a code breaker for the US government during the Cold War, which, in fact, his role was so important and secretive that even his wife didn't know he was working for the government. He transitioned to finance after he was fired from his government job after a reporter asked about the Vietnam War, in which he responded that the war wasn't going well and the US should pull their troops out. Although it was rough losing his longtime job, he later recalled, "It was the best thing that ever happened to me." By the age of 40 years old, he started getting interested in the finance world. He later recalled, "I love mathematics, but I was ready for a new challenge. That challenge would be the stock market, something he barely knew anything about at the time." Simons believed that financial markets, like the encrypted Soviet messages he used to analyze, might follow hidden patterns. He wasn't interested in earnings reports or economic theory, he was thinking mathematically. So he started a small hedge fund in a strip mall office in Long Island. It was called Monemetrics. Starting out, he tried macroeconomic predictions and lost money. Then he decided to hire scientists instead of finance people and lost even more money. However, even with his early struggles, his approach to the stock market was begging to turn out when he eventually hired Leonard Baum and Elwyn Berlekamp, both mathematicians who knew probably less than you do about anything to do with finance, let alone the stock market. As the years went on and years of failure, they began exploring statistical arbitrage, tiny market inefficiencies that could be exploited with algorithms. In 1982, Simons renamed the company to Renaissance Technologies and continued to stride towards pure data science. He started hiring math PhDs, physicists, code breakers. Basically, he hired anyone or anything in the math departments. With his new band, he started feeding vast amounts of historical market data into computers and developing models to detect subtle, short-term patterns. His attention to detail and his determination to tackle Wall Street with this nerdy math stuff were unheard of and in some ways revolutionary. Simmons famously quoted, "We don't hire Wall Street people, we hire scientists." People thought he was crazy. The news was calling him crazy. Investors were saying he was out of his mind, but soon enough, positive results started piling up. By the late 1980s, a now more experienced investor, Simmons, built his crown jewel, the Medallion Fund. The Medallion Fund is the most successful and strangest hedge fund in history. Using his iconic method of feeding the algorithm decades of historical market data and looking for patterns of anomalies, the Medallion Fund was able to shockingly produce year after year of consistent profits. With this success, they started to further refine this model using feedback loops, machine learning algorithms, and producing more data than anyone else. Through these methods, they found the thing that made this hedge so unbelievably successful. They discovered small patterns in the market that no human could detect, but with their advanced algorithm and scientific approach, this was like an untapped gold mine that they could freely exploit. With all of this, they were only right about 51 to 52% of the time. But they made millions of trades, and that edge compounded itself. From 1988 to now, the Medallion Fund took off, with an average annual return of about 66%. To put that into perspective, Warren Buffett has an average return rate at his Berkshire Hathaway fund of about 22%. Warren Buffett has been worshiping investing in the stock market since he was 9 years old. And Simmons knew nothing about investing until his 40s. This isn't to take away anything from Buffett. He is the gold standard of investment strategies and philanthropy. But this highlights how successful Simmons was as an investor. And this also brings up one of the biggest what-ifs in history. Warren Buffett started consistently investing when he was in his 20s, and consistently year after year, he continued to add more funds to his portfolio, all the way to now at age 95. With his genius and consistency, Buffett was able to earn a net worth of about $150 billion, making him the sixth richest man on the planet, according to the Forbes billionaire list. Now, if you put James Simmons in Buffett's role, keeping his same 66% annual return, and Buffett's track record, James Simmons would have a net worth of about $237 septillion. That is 24 zeros in an unfathomable number that you probably didn't know existed. To put that into perspective, all the physical money in the world accounts for about $125 trillion. The global GDP is about 100 trillion, and the total wealth of the world is about 500 trillion. He would be 474 billion times wealthier than the entire world, which is something that doesn't make any sense, but it is true. Now, realistically, this would have been impossible. There are just too many variables that have to be accounted for to be even close to happening. However, what could have happened is that if Simmons started investing earlier with his genius mathematical approach, by today, he could have been the first trillionaire, or maybe even multi-trillionaire, eclipsing some countries like the United Kingdom with 3.7 trillion, France with 3.2 trillion, and Canada with 2.4 trillion. Now, by pure numbers, it is clear that James Simmons is the greatest investor of all time, surpassing Peter Lynch, George Soros, Ray Dalio, and Buffett. However, Simmons lived a private life, often staying out of the media and saving his wealth for donations to math institutions and scientific research. Still, Simmons' legacy will be defined by his revolutionary use of mathematics to master financial markets. Beyond wealth, he leaves behind a powerful philanthropic empire that continues to fuel scientific discovery, education, and medical research for generations to come.